The preseason betting lines are out. We will talk Miami football concerning those three games that have been projected and brought to the table by the sports books out in Las Vegas. Welcome into Miami Hurricanes live for a 149th edition. How about that? 5 o'clock Eastern time here on Thursday each and every week with the Wholesome One. And we will bring in the Wholesome One in just a second. I believe he's just joined us, in fact. And so we welcome you to leave your comments, your questions, your trash talk, debate topics, anything that you've got for us there in the live chat. Wholesome One.
Mark, what's up, buddy? How you doing today?
I am doing just fine. It's great to see you.
Always, man, always.
This is our time that we leave open for the Wholesome One, and he is so giving of his time. Realize this. He's running all over the place, has a zillion things to do, is building a career, building all sorts of aspects of his life. But he makes time for us each and every week, Thursdays, 5 o'clock Eastern time. And he's been able to make it just about on the money every week. We've been able to get together for a long, long time now, for several months. So just show your appreciation. Of course, hit the like button, but also we got the super chat available. Also, keep in mind Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. If you earmark that and say, hey, Wholesome One or Miami show on this particular day, I'm going to know where that needs to go. So thank you so much for stopping by. Comments, questions, debate topics, trash talk, leave that in the live chat. We'll pass that on to the Wholesome One. And, of course, I've got something to say from time to time concerning some Miami football myself. All right. I want to remind everyone that we've been on the Miami channel, whether it's one time with Paul Scoop, a number of times with the Wholesome One, a number of times with Cam Underwood, our regular shows, moving over to the Miami channel. What I'm doing there is my main channel has become way too cluttered. And for example, I'll do a show with the Wholesome One here. It's on my main channel. Within 24 hours, it's like 6 videos buried. So this brings clarity. This is all centralized right here. We get just as many views, just as many hits on the live stream.
Yeah,
we do Miami, and it's all right here for you Canes fans. Just dive in and check out Miami football with our various analysts and myself. So all the national stuff is going to go on the main channel. The team channels are going to highlight those teams. All right, Wholesome One, we appreciate you stopping by. I was just, for some reason, a little extra excited when I sent out the tweet today to say, talking Miami football here. So that's what came out when I put get pumped, because that was just a reflection. I was just getting pumped to hear and learn from the Wholesome One. So
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
I got a few things. Absolutely. You have earned it. No question about that. I've got a few things here that aren't necessarily up your alley, but I'm still going to throw them out there because for one thing, you're not a betting guy. You don't deal with the lines and the money lines or anything like that. Just your take or your first impression of so our friends out in Las Vegas, the sports books that of course take millions of Americans over the barrel for all kinds of money. For it's amazing. You probably come across these people. So many people think that they have a one up on Vegas, and those people are actually very rare. There's a few out there, but they're very rare. That's why they make billions of dollars and throw up fancy hotels like every day.
Exactly.
So keep that in mind. Be cautious. Never wager more than it's just for entertainment purposes, folks. Please keep that in mind. September 4th game against Alabama. Vegas has set that as a 17.5 point spread. How's that strike you?
I mean, you can view it. For me personally, I feel like it's around where it should be. Honestly, if it was 21 plus, like I remember we played Tallahassee one time and we were like a 21 point underdog. I think it was right after they won the Natty, going into the 2014 season. We had already had a couple of losses or whatever. So that was the last time I seen Miami with a pretty big win-loss. Even Notre Dame, I think, was probably like, I think Notre Dame was a 10-point favorite or something like that, and then we ended up shellacking them. But usually Vegas is pretty head on. I mean, they take so many different factors in, and there may not be more specific football guys as far as like X's and O's guys and gals. They're more of like understanding the teams. to a certain extent. Like, yeah, they're, Bama's this, they just feel like so-and-so, they may be, or Bama lost this, or Miami had a whole bunch of these players coming back, and they look at kind of stuff like that as opposed to who's the DC and who's the OC, and as far as what kind of scheme and what are the holes and which player could be attacked. They don't get that like into it, but they definitely understand because they wouldn't have this close of a percentage of their win to loss if they didn't really know what they were looking at.
They're numbers crunchers. So they're expert numbers crunchers. And also what they know, Wholesome One, is they know they've got a psychological read on the betting public. They know the psychology of it, and they fool a lot of people out there. I don't know how many times I've seen point spreads come out and people are like jumping all over it going, Vegas is stupid. Look at that. We're going to jump on this. And then it turns out the other way. The other thing that people need to consider is all that they generally care about for the most part. Sure. If they put out a point spread and everybody bets, let's take this Alabama-Miami game. Let's say everybody takes Alabama to cover the points. And like 80% of the people take Alabama to cover the points. Let's just say, I'm not saying that's going to happen. This is just for instance. And the exact opposite happens. Well, Vegas is going to make out big. Right. But generally, all they care about is that the betting is 50-50 on either side, because then they take 10 or 11% cut from that. That's all they need. They get $100 million action on a game. And just so it's bet even, they're going to pull out their 10 or 11 million because they don't pay out fairly. They take their 10 or 11%. They just care that it's bet evenly on both sides, and they win anyway. They've got it's rigged, basically, is what the deal is. All right, so we've got a second game that Vegas has released. That's the North Carolina game that I know that you've got such fond memories of. Miami going to North Carolina here. So this game's going to be mid-October, and the way things look, it's going to be the game of the year in the ACC Coastal. I'm a bit surprised that it's not a point or two higher. North Carolina's a 3-point favorite, and the general thought, Wholesome One, is that Vegas, now it depends on the stadium and the particular team, but generally they give about 3 points to the home team. And so for North Carolina to be a 3-point favorite, they're basically saying that this is a pick'em game if it was a neutral site.
To be honest with you, Mark, the more I've evaluated it, I watched their spring game, I watched the Texas A&M bowl game, and the more I honestly think about it, it's like, and the bowl game is very similar to what we would have seen this year, but the spring game was even more because now a lot of those senior defensive players and big-time defensive players are out too, because a lot of their big-time offensive guys opted out of that bowl game also. And they still went toe-to-toe with arguably the second-best team in the SEC in Texas A&M. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. I think that's also faith in the returning value of the players for Miami. Tyrique King is thought to be healthy enough for the Bama game moving forward. Returning your running back, returning all your wide receivers, returning all your defensive starters, excluding Roche and Phillips. So for the most part, I think that Miami's going to have an older team, an experienced team. And I think that's what's helping us in the point differential right there. Because the other thing is they have Sam Howell, we don't. That's basically what the conversation kind of boils down to, is the fact that they have arguably the best quarterback in college ball right now. And Tar Heel Blue.
Talking Miami football with the Wholesome One. Leave your comments, your questions there as we will run them through. Really appreciate this guy. He called me for the first time the other night during the call-in show. Typically, he's just hanging back, making a few comments here and there, but he always delivers on a super sticker or usually a second super chat. So Falcon ERX. I've always said it Falcon ERX. I think it's Falconer. There we go. Falconer X. So I've always screwed that up. And the Wholesome One just just wanted to kick back and just make me just just show myself to be a fool by constantly saying Falcon ERX. I didn't know what it was, but so he called in the other night, and it was a bad line. So the connection wasn't great, so I didn't know for sure that's what he told me it was, because I said I think I've screwed that up all the time. So Falconer X with the super sticker, thank you so much for that. We appreciate it.
I will say this too, though, Mark, before you go on. The funny part is, like, we've moved to the Miami channel, and the up of Tallahassee people have skyrocketed. But we're on the main channel. It's like maybe numbers wise they weren't that relevant, but they are just like swarming the feed. I mean, it is what it is. I don't want to get into that. I don't want to get angry again. I'm having a good day today.
Well, I will say that this is a dynamic that I'm not going to say it doesn't exist with the other streams that I do, but it doesn't exist to this extreme. So when I do the Ohio State stream, of course, Michigan fans aren't going to get on there and say too much, considering what that series has been for the last 15 years. But
I'm glad you said series, not rivalry, because that's not a rivalry anymore.
Oh, wholesome one. We could debate that. I get your point. I get it, because you're thinking rivalry there has to be competition on the field.
Right. At least some fight back.
I get it, but if you were a guy like myself who grew up in Ohio in the 70s and 80s,
okay,
you bring that with you. To your point, wholesome one, I get it, because my son's 24 years old. He started watching college football when he was a little late to the game. He really didn't get into it till he was about 12 or 13. And to him,
so like 2010, 2011-ish?
It was about 2009 was, I think, his first Ohio State Michigan game, when we still started watching everybody play.
So around the same time, me and him.
08, 09. Okay.
Yeah, 2009, 2010, yeah.
And so for him, he's like, Dad, Penn State, Wisconsin, Michigan State, those are our rivals. Those are the teams that have given us the most problem. It's not Michigan. And I'm like, I understand. In your lifetime, I can't debate with you. I can't argue with you. But, he's like, this is all just hype from decades ago. This is all just a bunch of hype, and I try to get him fired up. The game will start and they'll have the big, like 4-minute hype video with all the stuff that's gone on in past decades. And I'll be like, look at that. And he'll be like, yeah, I wasn't alive.
No, yeah, I don't experience any of that. I mean, it's similar. It's not the same, but it's like us in Tallahassee, where the hatred, between the two teams on the football field and off the football field extending to the fans, when they went on like that 7-win streak, to them, it was like, yeah, that's not a big game to us anymore. It's big to you all because you want to win it. But to us, it's like, whatever. And then now we're getting that same feeling in our hearts, where it's like, yeah, we line up and play and we want to beat you and we will beat you, but it's not, we're worried about we got bigger fish to fry. But neither one of these teams have stretched to 11 or 12 straight? Or 11 out of 12, something like that.
2011, they lost. That was the year between Urban Meyer and Jim Tressel, when they had an interim coach. But they've won. That's the only loss since 03. 03. One game.
2 losses in 20 years?
Yeah, one.
Just 2003, and then 2011.
Yeah.
2 out of 20? Mark, that's not a rivalry, man. That's not a rivalry.
Okay, so I was saying all that for the Miami fans that I'm sure are going crazy, because I've taken it off the rails. The reason I brought that up was just to say that it doesn't come close in my interactions with the live streams with what happens with Florida State fans coming on the Miami streams and Miami fans going on the Florida State streams. It intensifies by the week, even in the off season here. Look at it this way, wholesome one. It's good for me and my channel.
Yeah, it is. You get a lot of traffic.
All right.
It's the weird part is it wasn't always like that, though. Like when we had our lives, it would be one or two people. You would ignore them. We keep going. But they've just like, whoosh. It's weird. I don't understand what they could be possibly here to talk about. But everything except for football. I mean, they're all here talking about our lockers. We don't have digitized numbers on our lockers, so we're a poor program. And our starting tight end went in the 5th round, so we're no longer tight end you. Like all this weird stuff, and we're like, what about on the field? What are we debating here? But I also remember when I was like that too. And we would fish for anything of relevance to argue when we couldn't beat them on the field. It was always like, how many championships you guys got? Or we would have that one picture of Chris Ricks laid down on the ground and our defensive tackle standing over him. Like, how does this feel? Or we would celebrate them losing a game, even though we lost that same week. You know, like it was weird. So now I understand how bad we looked being on that part of it. Then the other argument, well, how many ACC championships has Miami won? What about we lined up on the football field? What has happened? Exactly. It's that simple.
Yeah, the head-to-head is hard to get past because that's what it comes right down to is what happens when the two teams get together. Shane the King's on the line. And, I will, before I pose this to the wholesome one, let everyone realize to keep track of this transfer portal. I'm on 247 Sports about 4 times a day just because I want to cut videos as soon as guys hit the portal and stay on top of it. And I'm now doing this full time. So understand the wholesome one. It's difficult to track this transfer portal. So if you don't have your eye specifically on any particular linebacker or whatever, I'll just leave it open-ended in regards to the transfer portal. What do you think Miami's approach should be? Linebacker position in particular, and anywhere else where you really think that they could plug a hole before we hit August camp?
Mark, that's a great question. I was having a conversation with Dante Colon. He called me earlier. We were sitting there talking. And frequent caller on the channel. And he says to me, Holloway, what do we do at linebacker? Like, what do we do? And I don't have an answer for you, except for, in my opinion, I have been saying this, move Amari Carter to middle linebacker, put Gilbert Frierson as your weak side and Keontre Smith as your striker. In certain instances, even when we go against 12 personnel, even when we go against even 22, like a split back or a double tight and a split back, 21 or 12, it kind of gives more of a 43 look. And we also have speed and some size to come up and make tackles and also cover. But that approach, we saw it sometimes last year. I just don't know if the staff feels the same faith in that linebacking core for the University of Miami. Secondarily, you look at the fact that you have B.J. Jennings, Wayne Mestita's finally off of his health issues, and can be a really good help for us. A former Miami Central, all-county, all-state linebacker. He was like a swing 3-star, 4-star back and forth, but he's like a true 5'11", 5'10", 5'11", smaller, weak side cover guy, right? Well, in the spring game, he showed up, but the talk of the town at weak side linebacker was Keontre Smith. So he kind of got outshined by the fact that, oh, snap, Miami just moved their striker over the weak side. What's going on here? Even though both of them had really good games. You look at B.J. Jennings and Mark, you get to a point where sometimes you feel like a player has peaked. This dude is 6 foot at best. I think he's more like closer to 5'11", but he's 6 foot. He's 230-some odd pounds. He's a downhill, one-dimensional type of player. If he catches you on a stretch and meets you in a hole, he'll make you pay for it. But he's kind of like more of a throwback guy. He's more of like a mid-2000s, early 2010s kind of middle linebacker. He's not necessarily a 2020, 2021 middle linebacker where you need like a Patrick Queen who's the same size, but he's only 218 and has feet like a defensive back. So it's like, how do we fix this? How do we get to the bottom of where Miami can take that step of becoming LBU again? Being in conversation with the Penn State, with an Alabama, with an LSU again, as far as really producing great linebacker play. And I wish I could end that soliloquy with, this is how you do it. But I can't. I'm just putting it out there that as of right now, we do have a problem there. I don't know if it's in the portal. I don't know for a fact if it's on our roster, because even that linebacker core I came up with, now you have to be able to know, do I have a true coach? Do I have a true educator, a developer, and Jonathan Packey to be able to teach this safety, his whole life safety, transitioning him to a brand new position for him to be successful at the middle linebacker position? Because now you really have to be able to teach that. It can't just be like, all right, you get in the stance, you see somebody run, you go find it. No, you are the vocal leader. You have to be talking to the front seven. You have to communicate with your other linebackers. You have to also be in conversation with your safety. You got to be the one throwing the hand signals, all type, and also be keen to get back in your stance and go make the play if it comes right at you. So it's not the easiest thing to do. It's really going to have to come through recruiting. And then that also takes time. It takes time to be able to develop those young freshmen, 18 and 19-year-olds, that come into your program at a position like middle linebacker at the University of Miami. So to answer your question, unfortunately, I don't have the answer to. I don't necessarily, again, I don't know if they're on our roster. I don't know if they're in the portal, but I do know for dang sure that they're out there in recruiting. And we have to do, Mark. You got to land a premier linebacker. And I'm not saying a Sam Brooks defensive end changed the middle linebacker. Okay, and that speaks dividends that he was the best linebacker on the team when he was a dang DN. Like that should tell you the issue that we're truly dealing with at that position. But we have to up the recruiting at linebacker, both middle and weak side. We have to.
The best linebacker right now in the portal, as far as I know, is the USC linebacker Peo Teote. And most likely he's going to either Texas or Ohio State based on what I've heard. Now, I don't know where he fits in as a linebacker. I haven't looked into it to see if he's an inside backer, outside backer, what his specialty is, what his style of play is. But he is a former four-star that's played for USC.
He's a downhill thumper. He's basically what we had in Shaq Quarterman. The dude's like pushing 6'3". He's a huge. I think it's measurable at 6'3", 260, something like that. Like, he is ginormous. And you watch his film, and Mark, the very first play on his highlight tape is him just blasting some dude on a drag route.
Okay, so you've looked at him.
Oh, absolutely.
That he doesn't necessarily fit.
Right, he doesn't necessarily fit our 4-2-5 scheme, which is basically a nickel. 4-2-5 is a nickel. Okay, you got two linebackers, everybody else is defensive backs. Okay, you have to have speed, and that's why I'm saying the Amari Carter, Gilbert Fryson, Keontra Smith, and you could, in all likelihood, Mark, when I'm saying you could mix that however you want to mix it. Excluding Keontra Smith at middle, but I could see Keontra Smith as either a striker or weak side, and I could see Gilbert Fryson playing all three, and I could either see Amari Carter as a middle. I could see him playing all three too. The only one I would say I really wouldn't trust as a Mike, because he's still a little slender, would be Keontra Smith, but I could see Gilbert or Amari Carter playing all three positions, striker, middle, or weak side. But yet again, I don't know if that would ever really happen. It's just something that from what I've seen our players do, from how I've seen them attack in open space, I think that's the best linebacking core for the University of Miami moving forward.
Got the Wholesome One talking Miami football as we do each and every Thursday, 5 o'clock Eastern time. So keep this in mind. You enjoy the content. You love jumping in here, whether it's part of the live squad, hashtag live squad, or hashtag rewatch squad. Regardless, send the link out there. Get people in here. We would love to have more people filter in as we get, no, not filter in. We want to see waves of people get in here as we head toward football season and especially August camp. All right, Wholesome One, we got Derek on the line. He's
Derek,
asking basically about, Jonathan Padkey at linebacker coach, thinking Manny Diaz has put a lot of trust and faith in him. He did wonders for the striker position.
I'm so excited, and that's why I brought him up, Coach Jonathan Padkey, who yet again I truly believe this, Mark. You could pull this back because it'll be on the video for years to come. Jonathan Padkey will be a defensive coordinator within the next 5 to 10 years. I really like, it's different when you hear the way that players speak on a coach. And anybody could, he's a good coach. There's dozens and dozens of good coaches. When you talk about how he is as a person, how he's relatable, how he's willing to do that extra work with you, how you can call him, like all those when players say certain terms, it makes you get very excited about the future of a young man. And I'm very excited about Coach Jonathan Padkey. Now, the thing is, he himself was an outside linebacker. So that's why the striker and him being outside linebackers coach went hand in hand. You will have to see about him coaching the inside linebackers. But I wouldn't say that linebacker's linebacker. I think it all has different reads and keys. But for the most part, they are eerily similar in the base of how we're getting out of our stance, where we want to attack the offense, how we communicate. A lot of that stuff is very similar. So I could see it being a smooth transition. I don't know if it's just like instant, no questions asked, but I could definitely still see it being a pretty good development for Coach Padkey to the inside linebackers at Miami, and especially because we run a 4-2-5. So the weak side and the middle are very similar to what a striker is doing. I think it's going to work. Simply put, I think it's going to work.
Falconer's back at it. Falconer X, appreciate it. Thank you so much for the super chat. Never! Exclamation marks. Bet the Canes. The Canes always either win but don't cover the points, or they get blown out. I don't know that you've got the metrics or the stats to back that up, but Falconer, I get it. That's been your perspective on it. All right. CBS released some coaches rankings. What I do typically when I get on here with, regardless of the guest, is I will research and try to find what's going on with the program, even though, boom, I get the Wholesome One on here. He's going to let me know, this is what's going on, do.
I know what
on down the line. But, I'll look around to see if I can find any nuggets if it's a bit slow. This is going towards CBS Sports, and this isn't necessarily the entire department got together and took a poll. I believe this is one sports writer, and I didn't take down his name, who releases coaches rankings every year. So he's got everybody in the Power 5, did not go to the group of 5, just the 65 in the Power 5, and he's got Manny Diaz ranked at number 32. I'd have to pull up the whole list to give you some kind of... No, it's out of 65. He's just ranking the Power 5, the 65 in the Power 5. And he's got Diaz last year at 58. He's got him up 26 spots to 32 this year. While you comment on that, I'm going to pull up the whole list so I can give you some kind of feel for who he's got rated higher, lower, so you can... That's really what you need. 32 out of 65, that's right in the middle, for one thing. It's easier to evaluate when you know, okay, who does he think is better or worse? So I'll look for that.
Okay. All right. Ooh, excuse me. Before I go into this, Mark, I got to tell you a quick story. So I get off work, right? and I'm sitting at Denny's, and I sit down and I'm looking through the menu, and this rando guy walks up to me, right? Now, mind you, I am very, very popular. People like me, okay, for the most part. I've worked in a lot of public jobs, so, and being one of the only big brothers with locks, it's just like it's a pretty it's not common. So people know that when they see me, that's me. This dude walks up to me. He goes, "Wholesome one?" And I was like, "Huh?" Like I've heard Coach, I've heard Holloway, but Wholesome one. So I look up at him and I'm like, "Yeah." He literally says to me, I'm from up here. I lived in Fargo, and I'm a big fan of Mark Rogers. And I've been watching Mark Rogers since I was in middle school, and I've always been watching your shows, man. I just want to tell you do a great job. And I was just like flabbergasted. I can't wait to tell Mark this. This was like 2 weeks ago. So obviously, the young man will probably get a chance to see the video and be happy. I forgot his name. He didn't really introduce himself, but he probably was trying to be respectful of my time sitting there having breakfast at like 4 a.m. in the morning after leaving the club. But that was crazy. I was like, wow, you never know who's watching. He's like, yeah, I heard you worked here in Fargo, and I had never seen you, and I'm so happy to see you. So that was really cool. That was really cool.
Oh yeah, that is cool. What's funny is you
ever
said
have
it was
anything
about.
like that, Mark?
Well, it's funny because as soon as you said about 2 weeks ago, I'm going to tell you that right around the same time. So this was 2 weekends ago. I'm in Houston, and I'm at a Chili's, and
Okay.
and it's not like the waiter came back and forth from the table a bunch of times and then kind of figured it out. It was like as soon as I lifted my head, I'm looking at the menu. As soon as I lift my head, he goes, "Hey, Mark Rogers, you make the college football videos." I said, "Yeah."
Wow.
And it was funny because then when I left, he kind of ran out from inside the restaurant and ran outside. He came out just to say, "I just wanted to tell you one more time, you make these great videos. Just keep up the great work. I love the videos. Keep it up." So that's nice to hear. Sure.
It's so humbling. It's humbling, that people appreciate your work. I know we're supposed to get back to that, but it just popped up in my mind to remind you of that. That you have people in North Dakota who know who you are, and they were excited. That was really cool, man.
And the only other one I will share real quick, there's been a few, was I was a couple blocks away from my mom's house, and that's like 600 miles away, but I'm in Ohio. And again, well, of course, it's the internet. You could be anywhere. It doesn't matter where you are or where the other person is. It's not like local TV where everybody in Cleveland knows who the weatherman is, but if he goes to Pennsylvania, nobody knows who he is. It's the internet.
Right.
So it doesn't matter where you are. But it was funny because I was at my mom's house. This was a couple summers ago, and I'm downtown jogging. I'm a few blocks away from her, and all of a sudden there was some car at the light downtown Akron, and he goes, "Mark Rogers TV!" He yells out the window.
People, man, people. Hot dog.
So
anyhow, back to Coach Diaz.
Yeah, I'm looking for I can find the top 25, but I'm looking for the complete ranking because he's at 30. What did I say? 32. So I'm trying to find who else would, be around him that you could make some kind of judgment. Oh, here we go. So let's not go into the 60s because basically this particular writer shoved all the new coaches at the back, which I get. To a certain extent, I get. But let's see, just to give you some reference. So if he's got Manny at 32, he's got Pat Narduzzi Pitt, 31. He's got Mike Leach, Mississippi State, 33.
Wow.
He's got Lane Kiffin at 30. David Cutcliffe at 29.
Lane Kiffin at 30. And see, what I don't want to have is to the point where it's like, I sound like a hater, but it's like, if you give any of those coaches this Miami job, I mean, Mike Leach at Miami? Is he 30? Probably not. Probably not. But you know what? I hope he lives up to it. I hope he does. For those of us in the fan base, we've been super excited about what he does every offseason, man. It's must-see Miami TV when it comes to what Coach Diaz is going to do in the offseason to improve his program. Even going as far as firing every single one of his best friends on his side of the ball and replacing all of them with quality coaches who deserve to be here. There's kind of no way around it. This man does very good in the off seasons. All we want to see is it now come out the other end with W's on the football field and a certain brand of ball. That's what we're waiting on. So the first year, it was just trying to even put a staff together, because a lot of that was he had not started to build that web just yet as a head coach to be able to make a phone call to this guy and that guy and this guy and that guy, this AD, and swing people in. So he just basically hired all the defensive coaches that he knew, and then went with his offensive coordinator and asked him to go find an O-line coach, a wide receiver coach, because he needed help building a staff. Well, that didn't work, so he gets all of them out the door, and then replaces and upgrades from Enos to I just went blank. Brett Lashley. And in all likelihood, it has been an upgrade, and it feels a lot better watching us. And sometimes it doesn't, but it looks way better than what we had to do with last time, right? But then that only got him to 8 wins. So then he goes this offseason, and not only does he work on the field coaches, he works on off the field analysts, he works on grad assistants, he works on quality control coaches. Okay, all of them brand new coming into the program. He also goes to the on-field and he fixes at safety and bringing in one of the best recruiters who was like a GA and promoted him to be cornerbacks coach, and goes out and finds, let's say, a top 5 defensive back coach in college football in T-Rob. I wouldn't say he's number 1 just yet, but I think as far as developing to the NFL, he's at least a big part of the conversation. But as far as being fair, I'll just call him a top 5 defensive back coach in college football. Okay. Brings him down to Miami just to be a position coach. He's not coach DC. He's not DC. None of that. He's just a position coach, safeties and defensive backs working together with DVD, a former player here at corner. And you also bring in Coach Bob Stoops. Bob Shoops. Shoop. I always say Shoops or Stokes. I mess up. Shoop. Okay. Who also knows the 4-2-5, that scheme. One of the places that a lot of us have been wanting him to go higher from is TCU. Their coach invented the defense. So go find one of his position coaches or his defensive coordinator, promote them to come over here to Miami and be defensive coordinator to teach you how to truly run the 4-2-5. Well, he did the next best thing. He went out and got Coach Shoot to be an analyst, and he just basically is going to be teaching the staff and Coach Manny Diaz how to take their knowledge of the 4-2-5 defense to a different level. All the offensive coaches stayed the same. And then he also has stepped up in recruiting. Now, yes, you can say that COVID-19 played a big part in that. Yes, it did. But he still had to capitalize on them. Yeah, your parents may want you to stay here, but if Florida is just that much better and recruiting you that much harder, then you'll just go to Florida. If Tallahassee is still serviceable and good and having a good program, you just go to Tallahassee. Or worst come to worst, you go to UCF. But Miami had a serviceable season. Okay. They also have upped their ante in recruiting. There's constant building on the campus. They're building all types, just trying to upgrade as a program as a whole. And the recruits are recognizing that. So all we're asking now is that Coach Manny Diaz take a step. I'm not saying he takes the elite step, but I'm saying he goes from average to above average or good, somewhere in there. Because I don't know if it won't be great yet for a while, because great and elite to me are on different stratospheres than where Coach Diaz can be. And it may even take him 3 or 4 years to get to that great status. And it could take him 8, 9 years as a coach, not even Miami coach, but period, to touch an elite status, in my opinion. Because when I use terms like that, it ain't just my elite is 2 people. That's it. My great is a little bit more, maybe like 6 or 8. And my good is more of that like 10 or 15 coaches as far as can fit in that stratosphere. But, when I'm doing tiers, I'm not putting the eighth best coach is not in the great category. That just doesn't make any sense mathematically in my head. So when it comes to Coach Diaz, I think he's done so much good for this program. The way he stood by our players' side during the pandemic. I mean, we were one of the first ones to be willing to have our own bubble and all that type of stuff. And is the way that he's treated them as people and stood by them as human beings, even going as far to bring in people to help them learn politics, not from Twitter or anything. Have people come and speak from both parties to give you information so that you can listen to what they're saying. And really, because a lot of them are of the age to vote for the very first time. And he wanted them to understand what they're putting their vote in for this party. What does that mean? Are you just one way or the other because that's how everyone around you are? Those type of things, I probably won't know if the Texas Tech coach does that, because I'm not a Texas Tech guy. I wouldn't know if the Michigan State coach does that or the Colorado coach, but I can speak to the one in Core Games. And he was willing to do all of that for his players because he cares that much about those young men. And parents rave about how he treats them as human beings and as people. So for me, I get on Coach Diaz. I'm angry about some of the things he's done in the past as a coach. But, man, the more and more I have time to speak to parents and build relationships and network with people, Manny Diaz is one of the best people in college football, and I'm happy that he's Miami coach.
Which is great to hear, because I know that even though we've got the great majority of our viewers are phenomenal people, I'm sure, of course, there's going to be, as a couple thousand people watch this video, there's going to be some people out there that are going to hear what you just said and be like, who cares? I don't care about that. I just want to win football games.
Yeah.
Okay. Understand that we're talking about 17 and 18-year-old young men who are at a very pivotal stage in life, who either maybe they have a great father at home, maybe they have a horrible father at home, maybe they don't have any father at home, and they're leaving home for the first time. And they're going to a new environment, new people, the coaches that they connect with, that role and that investment that they make into their lives is just enormous. And to hear that a coach is going to go that extra mile to connect with his players, to understand, okay, what's going on in our country and what's going on right now. And that this could be said at any time, but especially over the last year or two of what's happening. And I want to just put them in a place where they're better understanding or in a better position to be able to perceive and make sense out of what they're hearing and seeing, so that they're just not getting thrown in every direction and just believing whatever, but that we're educating them. And wherever that takes them is fine. Whatever choices they make from there is great, but at least educate them, at least give them a path.
Exactly. And the biggest thing about it is, that's why I use the term young men. That's why I've tried so hard to make it a norm. Because I understand, I'm closer to it than a lot of these young men in age than other people. And as I get older, maybe I'll slip up and say kids a lot more, because by then they could be old enough to be my kids, at that point. But no one in college sports right now is old enough to be my child. So they're not kids, okay? They're young men. And that's just the terminology I use, because I want to view them in that way. Because that's what you are. You're building a foundation for what you're going to be. Now, just like Coach Diaz has used terms as far as the way you do anything is the way you do everything. Okay. Well, that means you as our leader have to have that same attention to detail in every aspect of our lives. And that's what he focuses on as far as really teaching them. And that's why I hope he does have those wins, man. Because in this industry, Mark, they could give a good goddamn about how you treat players. They could care less. And I mean administration and certain fans and people who control your job, they could care less about community service hours, about learning politics, grades. They could care less about any of that. They care about the outcome of football games or only a 3-month period of the year. But what we do lasts 365 days. And there's different sizes, different shapes, different colors, different religions, all together on the same team. And it's our job to be able to hold them together for one common goal. And that's to still be a team at the end of the result of every single game. Now, of course, you want that to be W's. Of course, you want to go out and win national championships. Louisville wants to win natties. But it's a lot more than that when you get down to dealing with people. And only certain people understand that. And there's some people who are successful and win games and have jobs for 10 years and keep coaching as long as possible because they're great at winning. But you always remember those coaches that cared about you as a human, or teachers that cared about you as a person, not an ID number and not a number on a jersey. So that's why it's passionate for me to hear that about our head coach and about some of the people on the staff. And it also is a little disheartening to hear about the latter half of some of our staff members who are from certain parts of the country who don't necessarily share that same sentiment.
Wholesome One, I know I've been torturing you keeping this logo on the screen, so I'm going to pull it as fast as I can. The reason I left it there is, of course, we honor all the super chats, and I was just waiting to read this one off. Phil B, gentlemen, thank you for doing a live stream. And he's got a certain equation he threw up there as well. I'm going to ask you this, Wholesome One.
Yes, sir.
How often, getting back to the field, how often do you find yourself watching? Usually I would think it would be a non-Miami game, or even if it's a Miami game, but it's coming from the opponent, where you see a play or you see a concept from another team and you think, why don't we do that?
Mark, listen. Woo! Every Saturday. I tell you what, Mark, when I was just a fan, it was, you could see it a lot more. You go, why don't we call that play? Why don't we do spread RPO? But here's the thing, Mark.
You probably did it all the time when Enos and Richt were running the show.
Oh, God, man. Jeez. The fact, Mark, listen, I tell this story all the time, Mark. Do you know how far back we were offensively? In 2019, the spring game at Trash Powell Stadium, which is the Mecca, the crowd started cheering when Will Mallory got out of his stance and motioned to the other side. Motion. It's just like when Georgia Tech, when they finally got their head coach and they got rid of the super army crap thing going on that they had going for a while there.
For a long time.
They came out in the triple option, and then they motion to a spread, and then their crowd goes nuts too. Okay, you should not be able to say that about our programs.
So
Okay,
not to interrupt Wholesome One, I would like to go back and look at that. So Georgia Tech did that the first week of Jeff Collins being the head coach after Paul Johnson. They did that the first play of the game. In the spring game.
The first play of, I think it was either a scrimmage, whatever. The crowd was there, so they just went. Okay. They did it on purpose to come out and that look, and you can kind of I saw it on Twitter, so this is how I know. So the guy is filming it, and of course, it was planned by the staff to do this. So they like pander to the crowd or whatever. You see people like, and then they like, the quarterback flares his arms, and everybody motions out to the spread, and they're like, yeah, and they just went nuts in the crowd for them moving to the spread. So it's you watch so many concepts, but Mark, it really gets down to the fact of this. Jimmy's and Joe's is a big part of it, man. It really is, because let's say Paul Johnson in that triple option, right? Let's say he had the number 1, number 2, and number 3 running back in the country. And let's say he had the best offensive line in the country, the best scramble QB. He said he had Lamar Jackson as his QB. He'll look amazing because he has the best players running his scheme. But he had 2 and 3 stars, and maybe an occasional 4-star who's from Atlanta who wants to stay to the crib. Okay, that's when they'll be able to get him. But the X's and O's is one thing, and trust me, I'm all in for it. But it has to be a balance. It's a marriage between the two. Being able to have a really good scheme that's modern and up to date, but you also need to have some of the best players to help fix and work that scheme. Because, I mean, if you're out there with, I could run the Oregon spread, which is something all of us who played the game growing up would run the Chip Kelly offense with the Miami Hurricanes players, and it was real fun. Before that, a lot of players would always, even former Miami Hurricanes players who played NCAA on the PS2 would always say, yeah, we ran the Florida offense because it was the run and shoot, whatever, Spurrier, spread, shotgun type scheme, and then it would use the Miami Hurricanes players in that. So it's really about having the players and the scheme work together. Because if I have an elite scheme, but I have really bad players or above average players, I won't look that good either. So it kind of works both ways.
If Alabama wasn't game 1, if game 1 was a game that was most likely a win, your typical season opener, let's say you were playing App State in week 1, and not that you could look past them, but you were fairly confident you're going to win this game. So it was more about not just, okay, I'm psyched up for a big game, but more about I really want to evaluate some guys here and really look at this. What players are you just fit to be tied, can't wait on the edge of your seat, you can't wait to see on the field and see what they can do?
How about this? We'll ask the chat, who do they think I'm going to say? Because I think that they always feel like I'm going to go to this one player. Yes, I gave him a nickname. I get that. And the second player also played the same position as I. And he doesn't wear gloves. He always wears tapes on his fingers. Somebody I really like too. But let's see what the chat thinks I'm going to say.
Okay.
Oh, wow, Cheryl. She's going in on the Miami Hurricanes fan base. She says we lack a lot of knowledge. Jeez. That's tough. She must be an Ohio girl.
Cheryl's my moderator. Cheryl's here all the time. So it's tough for me to say Cheryl does anything wrong.
You see the chat?
Where are we? Okay, let's get to it here.
I knew they were going to go there because I always.
Well, yeah, I thought Nesta was there. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah, I'm a big Nestor Silvera fan. I really love the way he plays. Oh God, jeez, man. I don't want to be a hater, Mark. I'm not going to say anything about Mr. Rambo. 'Cause, now you have one good game, and people just anyhow. Um, I've seen Nestor Silvera. I've seen Light Skin Warrior Bubba Bolden do very well. I've seen both of them. Um, but I wouldn't say like itching, but something has to shake for a guy like Mark Pope, man. Like something has to give. He had that one drop in the bowl game, and everybody not the bowl game, excuse me. He had plenty of drops in the bowl game. He had that drop in the spring game, and then went on to have 8 catches for 150 some odd yards. But everybody wants to talk about Rambo or a walk-on wide receiver. I'm not really. I'm kind of hands in the air when it comes to D. Wiggins. I've kind of just, it is what it is with that dude. But with Pope, man, I think I'm excited to see, number one, if he's going to still be on our roster. Because, the transfer conversation has been up and rumors have been up with Pope. So we'll see with that. But I'm actually excited to see Nevon Donaldson. I had to pick somebody that I'm like, you know what? I want to turn on that so-and-so versus Alabama, and I'm expecting to see a good result. I'm going to say the Big 55 because it's no more years of eligibility. It's no more change. This is it. This is your chance. And a lot of folks don't understand, but, man, when you got film versus Alabama, it used to just be like when NFL scouts would turn on the Miami and Tallahassee game of the late 90s. Well, the whole time, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, what did you do versus Miami? Or what did you do versus Tallahassee? That was a big conversation that a lot of NFL scouts would ask. And now you have a blessed opportunity where you're playing Alabama in a regular season game, an opener, where they're still trying to figure things out. You're still trying to figure things out. Okay? You got an opportunity now to put yourself on a stage. Because this 3 technique or 4-eye technique and inside linebacker are all NFL guys. This nose guard that I got to help Gainer move, that's an NFL guy. All right, so you have a chance as a guard to show them that you're a draftable player and that you won't be a standout or a sore thumb or a weak link on an NFL offensive line if you can line up and give us some really good film versus Alabama. That's where I'm looking at with Nevon Donaldson on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, somebody I'm very excited to see is going to be Tyrique Stevenson in our uniform. I'm excited to see what he's going to do because yet again, there's a couple people who I feel like won't fear or have the butterflies, of course, because you're playing in an opener game. In one of the first full capacity games in over a year. So the energy's gonna be wild, people gonna be jumping up and down. So you'll have your initial butterflies. But as far as fear within their heart to be playing against Bama, there's only a couple on that defensive side of the ball. I'm confident won't have that problem. And Tyrique Stevenson, someone who's played against him, just like Jakari Rambo. He's played against them, at Oklahoma. So, and he's been in big games at OU. So that doesn't fear. Playing big-time Alabama doesn't scare them. Oh, the Crimson Tide. It doesn't scare them, Tyrique Stevenson, it won't scare him either. So I'm excited to see their impact on the game because, a corner can't win you a game, but bad cornerback play can absolutely lose you a game. So we'll see in that aspect, but I'm very excited to see Nevon Donaldson, and I'm very excited to see Tyrique Stevenson versus Alabama.
Got the Wholesome One here talking Miami football every Thursday, 5 o'clock Eastern time. And I would ask everyone to, consider the contribution. Also consider getting the word out there on social media, Twitter, Facebook, and just talking to people. Let them know, hey, if you love college football, specifically Miami, come in and watch the show. So Wholesome One, you let me know when you got to go. I'm going to throw 2 names at you, but let me know if you need to take off.
Hit me. All I got to do today left is hit the gym. So go ahead, talk to me.
Are you somewhat surprised that Zion Nelson is getting this kind of talk as a top 10 selection in the NFL draft?
Yes.
Because the first time I heard that, I was like, what?
Oh my God. Mark, see, this is a tough part, man, because you don't when you're dealing with a fan base like Miami, who any little inkling you say against them, you're a hater and you don't know what you're talking about. It's hard, man, because the good always outweighs the bad on these platforms for the most part. But it just it gets kind of under your skin when it's like, why are you attacking me? Because this is my opinion. This is how I feel about a certain game or about a certain player. But man, I don't understand how you can turn on the film and say that this young man is a top 10 pick. But again, this is what happens when you have all these different analysts who just scroll down and like, oh, let me look at the roster for next year. And you see 6'5", 312-pound left tackle from Miami. Oh, and there's not a lot of well-known people besides Evan Neal who are big in this upcoming draft on offensive line. So I think that's what really was happening. It's the simple fact that someone was fishing for names and they put them up there. That same person who put that out there, and a couple people have also jumped on the board and started to talk about it, but that man also had Emory for Florida. Emory Jones, the quarterback. Is that his name, Mark?
For who?
The Florida quarterback. Is that Emory Jones?
Yeah, Emory Jones. Yes.
Yeah, Emory Jones.
Yeah.
He had him going 9th overall to the Philadelphia Eagles. When there's less than 30 career snaps for this young man at the University of Florida. So it's it's tough to get it in the fan base, grasp it and take it. We got a first round left tackle. Yeah. It's don't fall for that, please. And if he turns out to go out there and beat, I will root wholeheartedly. Mark, you know how much flack I've been getting in our fan base for my views on the Alabama game? I've been called an Alabama fan. I've been told that I'm in my fandom because I don't think that we're on par as a program or even in the stratosphere of these people, and that we're going to get blown out. But I'm a fake fan for it. I'm in my fandism because I look at us in that way. So it's like when it comes to Zion Nelson at left tackle, if he turns out to be a first-round left tackle in his production, I will be overly joyed and excited for him. But you're also talking about a young man who didn't start for us until week 8 when John Campbell was the starter. And the only reason why Zion started is because Campbell got hurt. And the simple fact that he's also one of those people who just makes sure that his guy doesn't make the play, as opposed to moving them out of the way and really imposing his will. I mean, there's no way on God's green earth you turn on Tristan Wirfs' film and Zion Nelson's film and feel like they're the exact same player or on the same par as a first-round tackle. You don't turn on Evan Neal's film and Zion Nelson's film and say these are first-round offensive tackles. And I feel bad because I feel like I'm bashing the young man, but that's not where I'm coming from with it. All I'm saying is, number one, he has 2 more years left of eligibility. Who's saying he's going to just go straight to the league after this season? And then number two, when you turn on the film, there's not much about that young man that says first offensive tackle taken or first round. Sorry, not sorry. And I want to apologize for my view based on the information that I've given and the film that I've watched. So.
Appreciate everybody being here at the Voice of College Football. Here's a guy that's a good player. Maybe this is the reason why nobody brings him up. I hear less talk about this player than anybody on the Miami team that obviously gets reps. Is it because he's such a given? Mike Harley.
Yeah, I mean, we know and we feel as though he has officially taken that step. And within the fan base, it's not really much of – he's not a question mark. He's not someone that you worry about. You understand that he understands the fact that he's a Miami Hurricane. He's so grateful for being there. He's happy to have that opportunity. He's taken on that job of leadership. He's taken on work ethic and all that type of stuff to a different level. So we don't really bring him up because he's there. He's going to be that guy. And look at Derek. Derek says 6 mock drafts now. So that's multiple people who come out, 6 different platforms who all feel like Zion Nelson is a first-round offensive tackle. And like I will continuously say, if he comes out there and plays to that level, I'm not going to come on here and be Mr. Anti and go, oh, God, he sucks. No. If he's out there producing and showing he's a first-rounder, I'm all for it. But you put in some of those mock drafts a whole year later, and a lot of the people that they had going in this year's first round and where they had them, some people had Greg Rousseau as the first overall pick. Some of those same websites. They had Quincy Roche as a sleeper late first rounder. They had Brevin Jordan as a top 18 pick. Okay, you gotta just wait it to play out. And again, see, now I'm going too hard on. Okay,
Mike Harley, 57 catches, 7 touchdowns last year.
They're going to the first round, Mark. All our players are going in the first round, and I guess I'm a fake fan for giving the facts, Mark. So I'll come on and we'll have a fan section of the show. Moving on now, where I'll just sit here and just say everyone's just the greatest of all time.
No, we speak the truth here. We speak the truth, and because we speak the truth, I'm going to set Hurricane Millie straight. Even though I love you, you're here all the time. That said Alabama was trash for 30 years before Nick Saban got there. Oh, hey. Let's set the record straight, because you're at the Voice of College Football, so we don't let inaccuracy and garbage that's not accurate go by. So I'm going to flag anything like that. So no, the program wasn't anything close to the Nick Saban standard, which is the greatest of all time. They did win a national championship in '92, which was only 15 years before Saban got there. So it wasn't 30 years. If you want to count the national titles 30 years in advance, you're talking 4. So anyway, and they won multiple SEC championships up until as recent as 99 before Saban got there in 07. So they were good for most of that time. Yeah, they hit a bottom there a couple of years before Saban got there and actually had a 3-win season. Yes, 1 season, but they were finishing in the top 10, 15 in the country. They were really good for almost that entire stretch. And again, won national championships, multiple in the 30 years prior to Nick Saban, and as recent as 15 years. Is there any validity to the strategy to hold out Tyrique King against Alabama? Do you understand that's being talked about, that's out there? Hold him out, and would that be a smart move, considering, hey, maybe he's not, maybe even if he's healthy, but he's not gotten the reps to prep properly for the game. And obviously it's a long season. We want him to be ready to go for the whole season. Do you think there's any merit to that strategy?
Here's my thing, Mark. If we do that, what's holding back from a TVD or Jay Garcia from going out and the offense looking very well under them? You know, would we be doing a disservice to them to just yank them back out? Because you go from that game, I got our schedule written down here. So you go from that game to App State, and then you have 4 straight home games. So App State, Michigan State, Coastal, Connecticut, Central something State, and then UVA, right? So let's say you hold them out, for example. Would you say just bring them back for App State, or are you saying give it a week or so? Because physically he hasn't been preparing in uniform, but he's just been doing super mental reps. So I think it works out well for Miami if he's just been doing all the mental reps, and then once he gets his physique, he'll be ready to go full go for camp. So that's the way I look at it as far as but I don't know about holding him out, man. If he's ready to go, put him out there. The only thing that always pops in my mind, if you go 4 years in that exact same stadium, what they did to Tallahassee starting QB, and they broke him up. So I wouldn't want that for De'Aaron King at all, because that would be, he's already had 2 injuries on the same knee, same leg. So I definitely wouldn't wish that on anybody. But
good stuff. Each and every Thursday, the wholesome one's on here.
Nebraska. You got your Nebraska guy today, Mark?
Tuesday. Nebraska Tuesday.
You know, I got to tune into that. I would love to hear, honestly, what they have to say. It's going on to show that UCF job is really good. Not necessarily that the coaches are always that good. So
I do say that I think that my shows and some of my shows are a little bit different than what you're going to find elsewhere, just because if you go to your typical Nebraska show, they're going to be full throttle, all Nebraska. Everybody in the chat's going to be Nebraska. And you know what I bring, because what I do, we get a big mix of different fan bases in the chat, just like this is probably a little bit different of a Miami show than just about everybody else.
I agree.
And we do Oklahoma on Friday now.
Oh, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a program I would love to let me ask you this, Mark, before I go here.
Sure.
I know you're one of those, you're not a traditionalist. I don't like that term. And I wouldn't want to put that on you because I don't think that it does fit your billing. But what would be, you were to give me 5 games, right? 5 games you would love to see, or 5 helmets you would love to see play each other, including Miami. So what other 5 opponents would you love to see Miami on the same field with?
Just Miami versus 5 other teams?
Versus what other 5 teams you would like to see those 2 helmets on the field against each other.
Okay. Are we talking about for this season? Because that's going to factor into my.
Well, I think we got 4 non-conference games. So, for example, we had a 5th. So yeah,
this is all just makeup anyway. This is all just pretend anyway. All right. Because of, so you're going to remember me saying this a number of times. I looked forward to that North Carolina game more than any other game last year, because I did think Clemson was too good and they proved to be too good. And then I thought everybody else wasn't on Miami's plane. That's why I wanted to see them play North Carolina. That's why I wanted to see them, even though it was a bit tarnished by players sitting out the Oklahoma State game, because they're pretty much on the same level. So those are the kind of games I want to see from a competitive standpoint, more so than just seeing brands on the field.
Okay.
So I want to see Miami play. If they had 5 games this season, I would want to see them play USC. I'd want to see them play Texas. I would want to see them play. I'm going to select some different styles too. I would want to see them play. This is going to hit you different, but Iowa. I would want to see them play. I got to go to the SEC for somebody. I would want to see them play, even though this team might be a little, they're coming strong, but still, I don't think they're out of reach. Texas A&M. So there's
you'll
four.
get that in. You get that next season. Our schedule gets a big
That's right.
bump up here. We got at Texas A&M and at Clemson in 2022. In 2023, we got home Texas A&M, and then in 2024, we got at UF and at Notre Dame.
This would be a good matchup. Oregon.
Oh. Okay, so you said SC, Texas, Iowa, Texas A&M,
Oregon,
and Oregon. Mark. I feel like we could beat USC.
Sure.
Oregon's not happening. Texas A&M. This would be a good year to play them. That's a toss-up in my opinion, even though I'm still somewhat slanted, but I feel like they're the better team. Iowa, I feel like we would win that. They would obviously give us a great game, and it would depend on if it's home or away. But like if we played at Iowa on a Thursday night, Ohio State goes in there and can't even win those games sometimes. So I think that would be a great one. Man. I'm trying to think of what our record would be in that. I guess it would have to be 2-3. I think our wins would be SC and Iowa. I don't think we'd be Texas or Texas A&M or Oregon if we had to play them.
Everybody always underestimates Iowa.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they're such an amazing program, and their consistency and the way they play. I mean, I don't know if I fit in that category, Mark, because if you know your recent history and you also know where I work, you would know that I've been there. I've beat them. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah,
and
I do remember that.
Definitely didn't take them. Definitely did not take them lightly at all. So,
I do remember that. All right. Good stuff with the wholesome one. Every time.
It's
always fun.
Just can't. Got to stay positive, irregardless, man. So, hey, thank you so much, Mark. And to the lovers and the haters, I still love you, man. Thank you so much. And Mark, thank you always for the platform. And you guys check me out on my channel, HOLSUM, the number one. That's my channel. I also have a weekly podcast that I drop on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. And I have like Canes updates and stuff that I drop throughout the week. And I have Monday night lives at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8-ish. Could be like 8:10, 8:15, 8:20, but somewhere in there. But if you go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification bell, you'll always be ready for an upload. So thank you. I appreciate it. And God bless. Have a great rest of y'all day. Okay.
We had more people on here at the end than we've had the entire time. So that, you know what that means. You know what that means. Rewatch Squad. You can be part of the Rewatch Squad as well. So most of you were on here. I just saw us hit 102 for the first time for the entire hour. So let the video post. It takes about 15 minutes. Then you can catch all the stuff that you missed. Also, wouldn't it be amazing if we had like 1,000 people in here in a couple months? And you can help me make that happen, because there's people out there that you connect with, whether that be in person or on social media, that have no idea that we are here talking Miami football, not just once in a while. Every day, there's Miami content that's being posted here every day. And so bring them in here for the live streams and the content. Please do that for me. And we'll make this, we'll blow this up big. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to look at the chat to see if there's anything to address here. Yeah, Cheryl is not a mod here on the Miami channel because I just didn't really go there with anybody because I wasn't doing live streams on these team channels, but now I am. So Cheryl knows she can be a mod for me anywhere, anytime that she wants. So that's up to her because she's got my full trust. No question about that. And as the Wholesome One puts there, Rewatch Squad, there's Cheryl. Yes, it's just me, Tim79. Please hit the like button. And again, let's get this show out there in the mainstream. Get people in here. Great show as always, gents. Thank you, Gage. Appreciate that so much. All right, good stuff. Thanks everyone for being here. Next live will probably be, well, you'll just have to keep the notifications going to know for sure because we schedule week to week, but most likely it's going to be next Thursday. But hey, let me know if you want to see other guests in. That's not going to take away time from the Wholesome One or Cam Underwood. If you want to see other Miami analysts in here, hit me up at MarkRogersTV at Gmail. Don't leave it in the live chat because I'm shutting this down and I'm not going to go through the live chat right now. But if you'd like to see other Miami football analysts, let me know who they would be at MarkRogersTV at Gmail, or any analysts for any teams. But since we're talking Miami right here, any Miami analysts that you would like to see, just let me know. All right. We will see you soon. Appreciate it. Phil B, Falconer X, thank you so much for the super chats as well.